Hi there, Man Alive listener. This is your host, Shayna James. You may or may not know that I started a new podcast. It's called Practicing Love, Have the Best Love and Sex of Your Life After 40. I wanted to post a few episodes over here so you can get a feel for the new podcast and hopefully subscribe to it so you don't miss any of the new episodes. I'm excited to build on Man Alive and support people, all people, with love and relationships, dating and sex, and what it takes to not only keep love and sex alive, but to actually have the best love and sex of your life, especially in midlife and beyond. Though to be honest, whatever age you are, there will be powerful information for you there. So I hope you enjoy this episode of Practicing Love, and feel free to reach out with questions and ahas and also topics you'd like to see covered there. If you haven't yet taken the quiz to see what keeps you from having the best love and sex of your life, go to shaynajamescoaching.com/quiz. You'll get a personalized report of your strengths and challenges in the 5 crucial areas that lead to your most fulfilling and exciting love and sex life. Go to shaynajamescoaching.com/quiz to find out. Welcome to this episode of both Man Alive and Practicing Love. I am very moved to be here today to talk about a topic that many people in my world who are personal friends and clients, are really struggling with these days. And that is the topic of a woman's menopause. And often that happens simultaneously with a man going through andropause, which I think is less known. But the dramatic part tends to be the menopause, and women going through it, myself included, can be blindsided and just really thrown into this emotional place, emotional, physical pain and suffering. And then when there is a heterosexual relationship where a man is a partner, it is often a time of huge amounts of confusion and not knowing what to do or how to do and how to stay sovereign and speak up for yourself while at the same time allowing for this, incredibly dramatic change that is happening for a woman. So I have an amazing guest here today who is a guide for men who are navigating this time of menopause. Welcome, Mark Platten. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shane. I appreciate your time and opening the doorway for this. It is certainly needed for not only women, but their partners, men in this for sure.
Yeah, huge. I mean, I was just reading recently about divorce and, many of the divorces, I think a very high percentage of divorces are happening in this phase of life. And it's something that, we don't talk a lot about, death or sex or relationships or emotions. And I feel like they all come together in this midlife moment without guidance or without having seen examples of how to do it. So I feel really excited to hear your story and your wisdom about how to get through this very challenging time.
Yeah. And it's a really good point, how to get through. I mean, that's,
because there is a through, there is a through.
There is definitely a through. And so I'm on the other side. My wife is 6 years older than me. So we've been through it for about 8 to 10 years now.
Wow. Okay.
But when you're in it, you don't know. It's different than other, like the monthly cycles. We know it's, 3 to 5 days. Maybe we have to walk on eggshells a little bit and be careful about how we say certain things. When our partners are pregnant, we know that's when we find out, probably 7.5, 8 month process and we can see physically what's going on, and we know that there's a real clear end. When menopause snuck up on us, and I'll say it that way because we weren't aware it was even there. We just wrote it off as we had just had our youngest child. My wife was 41 at the time.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that late life pregnancies could initiate perimenopause, could start that. We weren't aware of that. So she was kind of writing it off as kind of a postpartum kind of. I was like, well, we've got a new child in the mix here, and this is causing some, and we were only in relationship for a couple of years. So it's like, well, we've got this new kind of twist that's happening. And so we didn't know. It's like, wow, she's different. She's feeling this way. And I'm going to try to soften in and kind of be respectful. And then it's like, well, now this is really different from who I know her to be.
Wow.
And what's happening here. So I don't think in fact, I would say that most people aren't aware of when they move into it. And so it surprises and it's almost, I would say too late, but it's late in the game when you go, wow, what's going on? This
Yeah.
person that I know and what I always say is we like to stick each other in boxes
Yes.
as humans.
Mm-hmm.
So if you and I were together, Shayna's like, I got the Shayna box over here. I know who Shayna shows up. I know how she's likely to respond to an argument that shows up this way. I know how she's going to be this way.
Yeah.
And you've got the Mark box over here. And whenever we would move out of those, it throws us, all of us, out, right? It's like,
Yes.
well, who is she that she's not in this box anymore?
Right.
And what is my relationship to that? Because that then brings up all my subconscious fears and doubts and concerns and past relationships
Right.
that got brought up. It's like, well, I thought she was this. Who is this person? And I can't tell you the number of men in the last 30 years or so that I've worked with and gone through things with that they said, my wife just went crazy. And that is unfortunately the construct on the men's end
That's the
oftentimes.
framing of it is often,
It is.
and there are times where that actually is, something that happens, right? Where mental illness actually can arise
Mm,
in
mm,
perimenopause.
true.
But I am curious when you say that, like, what do men describe crazy as? Because I'm also wondering if that's part of the framing, because we're in a culture that doesn't normalize this transition or the dip or the deep well, or whatever happens. Like, what is crazy to men?
Well, and it's not fair for their partners either with that, right?
Yeah,
It's not a fair statement. I'm just saying that those are the words. I
that's
mean,
right. That's what it seems like.
yeah, and when we have these conversations with women, like I'm doing a course that's coming out here in the next month or so, and when I bring stuff up in like on social media, I
Yeah,
get really huge pushback. Like if I
yeah,
talk about the women being in the storm or being in the heat, it's like, well, it's not all about women. It's like I understand that, I
yes,
get that.
yes,
For men, for standing in the, I can only speak through men's. It's not fair not to speak about the truth of what we're also experiencing, which is like I'm not sure what's happening over here. The set of tools that I'm used to, for me, I'm a fixer. I'm the knight in shining armor. I'm the let me logistically move through and show how I'm going to create a logical pathway of how to help and solve this. Yeah, you're laughing.
yeah,
Why? Because those tools have zero, mean they're not needed. They're the wrong set of
yeah,
tools
yeah,
in this phase of life.
yes,
And when you only have a set of young man tools to work with, so let's say a Prince 1.0, which is very appropriate in early relationship times. If that's a set of tools you're bringing into midlife, going through these midlife changes, both for ourselves as men in andropause,
yeah.
where testosterone is dropping, where we have our own chemical changes, our own things maybe with ED and other things that are going on,
Yep.
bumped
Wow.
up against our partners, changes that are also the intimacy challenges that are going on for a lot of women,
Yeah.
where their bodies are changing. They don't like themselves as much. They don't think their partners maybe even, like, how can my partner like me because I don't like me?
Yeah.
Or you've got some things going on with vaginal dryness and other things along
Oh,
those lines,
yeah.
which will make sex and intimacy so much
Painful.
painful. And
Yes.
it also may take our partners longer to get to the place where they're ready to be in
Sensual,
intimacy. At
sexual.
the
Yeah.
same time, men whose testosterone has dropped, whose maybe the ability to hold an erection is much shorter. It's like now we're fighting opposite battles here, and it's a
Yes.
perfect storm set up in the intimacy world.
It is a perfect storm. And one of the things that I really like to remind, and then I want to dive into the King tools because I think that can be
Yeah.
really helpful. Oftentimes in these perfect storms, there's a part of me that's like, what the fuck? Are you serious? This cannot be happening. And when I shift my view to say, oh, right, at this time of life, I think the opportunity is to really understand a deeper kind of intimacy, right? We go from that princessly way of, having sensuality and lovemaking that's just, it's, let's say it's a little more on the surface, or it can be, very physical and exciting. But as we get older, we have the opportunity to deepen the intimacy and the love and the knowing of each other, and the right, that cosmic dance that can happen, but it can't happen without honesty and without vulnerability and all the things that I think the menopause andropause journey inspires. So anything you want to say on that? And then I want to hear about the switching from the prince tools to the king tools.
Yeah, I love that layout, and that is the invitation, right? Is to
Yeah.
deepen.
Yeah.
As a man, that scares the hell out of me
Yeah.
because the work I do in the what's called the Integral Man Institute that is my men's work. So
Yeah.
integral meaning integral in the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual realms.
Yeah.
I find most men enter a relationship, and that's where our focus is on the physical.
Yes.
And when we get to this place where we're like, oh, we can't perform the way we used to, and our partner is not showing up the way we used to, again, in the box we've experienced her in,
Yeah.
the invitation is to lean into some of those other dimensions
Yeah.
and to grow. And that's, again, the Prince 1.0 or 2.0 is not a bad person.
No.
We're not saying that's a bad place to be or a bad person to be. Just like the 7-year-old boy that I was not a bad person. But I don't want my 7-year-old being in
Being the
relationship
show.
and a 20-year-old body. I don't want that kind of thing going on most times, right? Maybe there's a place of playfulness and
Yeah.
playing games and tag and girl cooties and stuff like that. But not typically do I want that 7-year-old to show up there.
Especially not with a perimenopausal woman.
Well, definitely not with a perimenopausal woman, and yeah, right, for sure. But that's what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
We spend all this time, I'll say, in our world of work. We spend 20, 30 years taking courses, deepening our skill set, doing all these things so that we, learning leadership and all that. And so we're the king oftentimes or many times in that environment. In our relationship, how many courses have most couples and men taken? How many men have gone deep into the shadow work and done the inner child work?
Yeah.
How many men have looked at their partners, that had real deep conversations with their partners? We tend not to do that. So we're still operating as our body is growing, as we're maturing in life, as we're getting that midlife, we're still operating on that in the relationship, again, 1.0 phase of the Prince.
Yeah.
And again, very appropriate for a particular place of time in life, but very inadequate. And I think that's what many of, including myself, I'm not saying something that I didn't experience. I didn't have these sets of tools. It's one of the reasons why I'm doing this work, is because I flailed through it. I find myself very incredibly competent and had lots of success in business, and I've done lots of inner work and deeply spiritual.
And still you flailed through it.
I failed all over the place. I'm still a fixer. I'm still doing. Part of the reason why I'm doing this work right now is because we most teach what we most need to learn, right? We teach what we most need to learn. I'm still in the process of going, all right, for me to move into a place of what I would consider an elder man.
Yeah.
It's not by age, it's by wisdom.
Yeah.
And by the anchoring and by what we have to offer other men and community.
Yeah.
I have to figure out this place. I have to understand and upgrade myself.
Yes. Okay. Tell us about the upgrade and the tools of the king, because I think that many men listening will be like, please, give me give me the tools I need for this phase.
So the tools really, what's nice is there are some frameworks that like Carl Jung has put out there, and a lot of the kind of solid men's work out there, like the Mankind Project uses the framework of the Jungian archetypes of king, magician, warrior, and lover.
Yes.
And those 4 archetypes really anchor in where we are as men. So where we is in the king, where we is the magician, which is in our mental construct, where we are in the warrior field, and where we are in the lover. And that's the place oftentimes that we're weak is in the lover. Although I say, and I will stand by this, that all men, I'm sure I get some interesting responses from this, but all men, truly our primary core place is the lover. But because we're so hurt early on by either a parent or somebody in that it hurts so badly, we shut down, and it's much easier to step into the warrior and go, not going to do that, or into the mind and go, don't have to feel that.
Yes.
Or into the king and say, I'm just in charge of my empire, and the lover place will take care of itself. which is again why we don't spend a lot of time in that very scary, dangerous
No.
world of relationship and emotion, and
Yeah,
because it's we're told it's not a safe place from early on, at least
I
my
know.
generation. It's not a safe place to go.
Yeah, I think
It's
that's
not.
one of the places I feel so honored is having, gotten to work with so many men in the realm of helping men open their hearts again, right? Because one of my favorite, the thing that makes me giggle is like, I talk to men about jumping out of airplanes and going whitewater kayaking. And then I'm like, well, what if you said this to your partner, right? Or what if you admitted to this vulnerability? And it's like, oh my, like, it just, there's so much tenderness. And I love getting to support men to feel the strength, right? That either underlies that tenderness or that is a part of that tenderness, that vulnerability is not a weakness. But you're right, there's so much pain. And even from a young age, and I'm watching my kid go through the teenage years, and when the kids get teased and when, all these things that happen that really are those formative experiences. And then, like you said, we get physically older, but oftentimes mentally and emotionally, we're not taught how to actually mature ourselves to these next levels.
Yeah, and that's a huge fair statement. In fact, I one of the questions I ask men all the time because I'm always curious is I can see or I can guess what your outer physical age is.
Yeah.
What is your inside age?
Yes.
Who's running the show? When I say, when I used to be like in my 20s and going to bars and seeing 40 and 50-year-old men, there's like, what is wrong with you guys?
They're
But at
still in their 20, like internally, right? They're
yeah,
still in their
internally they
20s.
may be 25 or 30 years old, and you're like,
Yeah.
well, that's perfectly acceptable, and that's really okay.
Yeah.
But that again is the is that we when we don't mature that inner person,
Yeah.
then we don't have the guidance, then we don't have that foundational strength to be able to withstand the storm. If you want to call, I mean, I'm really calling it felt like a storm for me
Yeah.
when my wife went into that emotional and huge emotions. I just went into I want to help you, or when it felt like it was about me, because oftentimes it was about me through her lens because of
Yeah.
what she was bringing up. It's like, well, no, that's not me.
Yeah.
That's let me tell you why you're wrong with what you're thinking there,
Yeah.
which of course never went well.
No. Okay. So
So
what,
to so
yeah,
to
let's go back to the, right. How did you shift that? What did you actually do in those moments?
so to approach it in a different way is about the king. So moving from the prince to the king is about not reacting,
Okay.
not taking it personally,
Okay.
about grounding in and being a lighthouse, if you will, being that stable force in the storm that she can anchor into. And you hold that without making it about you, without being in victimhood, because it's often what happens for men is we go into victimhood around that. When the stuff that we're doing, the tools that we're trying aren't working,
Yeah.
then we make it about us, about, well, I'm a victim to her. And
Yeah.
that always disempowers men. There's no way around that. And women as well. When women become victims, it's a disempowerment place. There's nowhere to go because you don't have choice.
Yeah.
So when we as men don't have to take on or fix or do anything but be present and really be grounded, when you as women can see that we are an anchor in that lighthouse
Yeah.
and that we're not running,
Yeah.
that we're there for and with you, but we're also not just being a whipping post, right?
Right.
We're also anchored and really grounded and able to state what our needs are clearly.
Yeah.
There is a power that comes with that. There is a centeredness and a groundedness that comes with that that allows my partner to have that energy. I don't have to take it on. I can witness and observe.
Yeah.
And when she's done, I can still be present. And she knows then that I'm a grounded man. She knows that I'm not
Yeah.
going to run because I think that's part of the fear that my wife had is that I'm just going to leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to go because she didn't know who she was
Right.
through it.
Right.
And
And
so when
that
you don't know
that's
who
a
yourself,
huge
yeah.
part of this is not knowing who you are. And I've had that too, where suddenly I'm like, oh, I thought I knew who I was or who I was becoming. And then suddenly the ground feels pulled out from underneath. And um, I think I'm wondering if you have a concrete example because many men who haven't done men's work or shadow work and imagine okay, wait, I'm supposed to not fix. I'm supposed to not take it personally. I'm not going to be a victim, but I'm going to I'm going to hold, like, what on earth, right? So let's see if we can flesh that out a little bit for the men who are wondering, what do I do?
Yeah, and I can say I'm nowhere near perfect in this. I'm
No,
still I've got my
but that's
old
not the
wounds.
goal.
It's not. It's not the goal. The
Yeah.
goal is to be aware more often
Yeah.
and recover more quickly.
Okay.
So, for instance, just here a short time ago, my wife, we had this agreement. I went down with a friend of mine, and we were going out hiking somewhere. And this guy he's such an interesting character. He's 25 years older than me, and he just has his own way of moving through life that is outside the realm. And I typically don't get back in the time that I say I'm going to get back. So that's outside of integrity with me, right?
Yeah.
So, but I blame it on him. It's easier to blame it on him. It's like, well, he did this. So this time it's like, all right, I'm going to be home at 7.
Yeah.
So I got to the place where it was like, I was with him. And instead of deferring to him, it's like, hey, we need to go now.
Mm-hmm.
On the way
I need to
back, I
turn
just
around.
my wife said, here we are. We're coming. By the time traffic was bad, by the time I got home, it was like 15 minutes later than what it was.
Okay.
She was all up and upset. It's like, you're messed up. You are, this. I just held my ground. I didn't stand. I didn't fight back. It's like, she says, you're playing the prince role because now you have.
Now
So
that
this
you've
is
defined it.
also right now that you understand that you're doing this work and that you're in it. Then the tools can be used against you if you're not careful about it.
Yeah.
Says, you're really in your prince. Like, oh, I'm clearly not. I'm telling you, this is how it came about. I wasn't reactive. I was clear
Okay.
and
So you're not trying to
grounded.
defend or prove your
Not
goodness.
just,
Like, yeah.
not making myself right. Just really clearly going and standing and really. So when you're in it and really grounded in integrity with yourself and
Yeah.
with what's coming through, it's grounded. And she just stopped because she knew there wasn't anywhere to go. Not that it was that I beat her or that I was right, but because the energy I was holding
Yes.
was so solid and so grounded and so in integrity with myself
Right. And when
that
you're not trying to defend or um, push back, right, it doesn't initiate what would have her then push back at you and then have that battle happen. So it's like, right, if you're sword fighting with someone and then they put down their sword and they're like, I got you. I get it. I'm taking responsibility, but I'm also not whipping myself. There's no fight to have, right?
right. And she also then feels into me and it's like, oh, this, and she's saying, it's like, you're such a different man that I know. It's like, yeah, because I'm a different man because when I pull these energies through, when I'm holding in sacred place, it's going to feel different. And it's going to be, she again she has her box of who I am.
Yeah.
Like we talked about boxes.
Yeah.
So when I don't respond the way I typically would respond,
Yeah.
now she's
She's
confused by that.
Right. She does. She's like, wait, now I don't know my response because if my response was a habit to your response, we have to create something new here.
Which then invites in a deeper conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that if I would say the thing that saved me through this period with us, or this 7+ year journey, and that's another thing that we don't. There's like 7 years or to 10 years. Like most of my relationships didn't last that long.
Right.
So now I'm having to be with this person who I think I know, but who has changed over here, but who is going to come back to somebody even better on the other side. But I have to be with her for the 7 years.
Yeah.
That's a big ask.
Yeah.
That's a big ask. And before we started this conversation, before we started recording here, we were talking about, it's like, how many, I asked my wife this, how many women would raise their hand and jump in and go, hey, you know what? This menopause thing, if you choose to go through it, it's 7 to 10 years, but on the other side, it's really great. It's going to be really,
You're going to feel destroyed for 7 to 10 years. You're
it's
going
going
to
to be
go ripped apart and
emotions,
reased inside.
physical and work, and all the stuff that you push down in is going to come up and you're going to have to deal with
No
it.
way.
Let's sign up. No, almost nobody would do that.
And I have to say, I am a seeker and, I will most often choose like to move toward awakening, even if it's hard. And in this case, there's no way I would have said yes to this. No.
Yeah. And so women don't have a choice.
Yeah.
75 to 80% of women, when they enter menopause, it's a tough time. About 20 to 25% have it's not really too outside their norms. They can kind of contain it and control it to some degree. But for 75-ish percentage of women, it's a journey. It is a storm. It is an unknown. I'm not sure what's on the other side of this and if it's worth it. And
Yeah.
it
Or
is. I
whether
can
we'll ever
say
make
that.
it there.
Or if you're going to make it there, is your relationship going to survive? We talked about earlier. I mean, the question that I think what's out there in the media, maybe it's shifting to some degree, is when you think of midlife for men, it's midlife what? What's the word that comes out?
Crisis.
Crisis.
Oh, yeah. I just
Midlife
actually
crisis.
wrote an article on the midlife crisis as the entry point into a soul led life, right? But if you view it as a crisis or you don't have any tools to get through the crisis, I mean, that's where we start devolving. And then there's two of us, if you're in a heterosexual relationship, right? Both going down the rabbit hole, and it is messy.
Yeah, that crisis ends up with, the vision is that men, trade in their wife for a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old
Yeah.
and get the sports car and lose or step outside their job and just go wild and free and everything else with that. What I believe is happening is it's an andropause thing, and it's a problem and a challenge they're having with their partner, not knowing how to navigate this,
Yeah.
not having the intimacy that they're used to because they haven't done the work to really lean in, even though they may want to.
Yeah.
They're not getting their needs met or their perceived
Right.
needs met, and
Right.
that's a challenge, right? That becomes an issue.
Yes. And that, I mean, it's easier in a lot of ways to just, okay, let me throw this away and start over and start with someone younger who, has some more of that vitality, isn't going to challenge me as much. But I will say, and I'm imagining this for you too, but you can tell me, but the partnership that I'm currently in, where we are having deeper conversations through this and really finding each other in intimacy and sex and our emotional journey, right? That it's so much deeper and more supportive and more loving than I ever knew was possible. And that is possible for couples when, like you're saying, you learn to take on these new tools of the king instead of the prince. And yet we aren't given these cultural examples of it either.
No, and when you move from the place of victimhood through this into the place of catalyst,
Yeah.
that's a really
There we go.
different place.
Okay. Say more about
So
that.
I can, yeah, so I can play. I mean, I played victim. I play. It's like, wow, this is happening to. And I think that's where my friends were saying. Some of
Yeah.
my friends are like, she's gone crazy. It's I don't know who she is kind of thing. And I'm still the same guy because in many ways that's true. I'm
Yeah.
not changing, which is part of the problem, right?
Yes.
I haven't changed from when I was, if you were in a 10 or 15-year relationship, I haven't changed since that guy was in my 20s.
Yeah.
She's the one who's changing. This is about her. It's really easy to point that out there.
Yeah.
And it's not to make us as men bad. It's like, what if instead of playing the victim, what if instead of using this out, what if you go, oh, there is a more mature, there is a calling, if you will,
Yeah.
an invitation to go through an initiation of upgrading into that king place.
Yes.
And there aren't, just like there aren't going to be many women who will go, yeah, I want a 7-year journey with this. There's only a core group of men who are going to go, you know what? That's the place I want to be. That's who I want to move into.
Yeah.
That's
those are the men who are going to be met by a woman who is, willing to love and work through and have sacred and, ecstatic intimacy, right? That comes out the other side. If you're not willing to grow, that's not what you're going to get.
Well, right, because a relationship based on our 20-year-old self is not a mature rate. It can never mature. It just stays there. And especially if the woman has to force herself to grow through menopause, you get this interesting dynamic of a woman who's done all this work and a man who hasn't.
Yeah.
That feels imbalanced, and we both feel that. We both know it. So my wife sitting in her queendom, if you will, and me still at her prince, it's something that's uneasy in its own strange way that we
drives
don't
women
talk to.
That's where it's like it drives women mad. I mean, I see the example of my parents who are, one's almost 80, one's 80s. And I would say, the inner age of my dad, his dad died when he was a young teenager. And I can feel a lot of that emotional place where he was arrested there. Right. Um, and I see the rage in my mom. And I'm not saying it's his fault. There's a dynamic that's
No.
happening between the two of them. But when a man doesn't say yes to the call, to the initiation, to the stepping into the king, women get pissed.
But to be fair, again, there isn't, women are moved into that without a guide even. And that's
Yeah.
unfortunate for women in a lot of cases as well, right?
Yeah.
So you're left in your own devices of going, I'm not sure how I'm going through this,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you have to go through it.
Right. There's no choice.
You wouldn't choose it yourself, right?
Right.
You would stay that younger version of yourself as well, that more immature version if you had a choice.
If we were
You
given
don't
a
have
choice.
a choice.
Yeah.
Men, there's nothing that really pushes us other than our partners in that.
Yeah.
And again, if there isn't a guide, if there isn't somebody to go, here's a path.
Yes.
What you do is you struggle and you try things because you don't know what the problem is.
Yeah.
It's what I did. It's like, well, maybe I'll redo this. Maybe if I just double down on the let me logic my way, it's like the number of times that I was like, I could feel her pain that was going on. I could, even though she wasn't, it's like, what's wrong with you? What's going on? How can I help you? It's like, it's you. It's like, oh my gosh. And it's like, me. Then I get in my defensive and like, let me show how it's not me and how you're wrong. It's like, well, it's how I'm feeling. Yeah, went in this circles and circles and circles because I didn't have a guide to take me down the path and go, okay, let's talk about this. Let's really be in this place of hunting our triggers, of really being present, and being activating that warrior in a way that isn't against my partner, but going, what do I do with this?
Yes.
What am I seeing that's unfolding? Because the triggers are where the juice and the healing is. The triggers are where the upgrades happen.
Yes.
So I'm being triggered by my need to fix and to be the knight in shining armor and to for me being right growing up was safe in my family,
right?
Safe for my dad. So when I'm not right, when I feel that, it blows up. So there's my edge of learning and growth.
Yeah.
And so it is a catalyst. It can be a catalyst for those men who feel the call and feel like they want to move into that upgraded version of themselves.
Yeah. It's
a call. Now, there's a lot of men who makes it easier to jump out in that midlife crisis thing, right? Even though, interestingly, if you look at the statistics on divorces in that midlife time frame, 70% are initiated by women.
Yeah, abysmal. It is. It's mostly women, and second marriages are higher than first marriages. Yep. And I'm curious if you can say from the other side, it takes energy, of course, to step into this call and to catalyze yourself. But like, what would you say you're getting out of it now that you have stepped in?
I would say a depth of truth and knowingness for myself, first and foremost. I mean, when you do the jump, when you choose to step into the deeper work here to upgrade, initially you're going to think it's about your partner and you're doing this for her. Right. Most people will think that. But the truth is you're doing it for yourself because there's no guarantee if you can keep a relationship together.
Right.
Anybody who says that to you is lying.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, you're doing that for yourself. So for me, what it's giving myself is a grounded, really anchored position that I bring into not just my relationship with my wife, but to all my relationships. And it changes everything.
Yeah.
What it does for my wife and I is it allows us to have that deeper relationship that's beyond the physical. Not that physical isn't important.
Yeah.
But it changes, right? There's a change that happens with that. So we can communicate in ways and we recover more quickly from when we have challenges. Yeah. And we're both able to, I should say, I'll speak for myself. I'm able to own my own stuff really much more quickly. And instead of like, again, being wrong was dangerous for me.
Right.
But to own that, all of a sudden it's like, oh, that actually makes she knows where I'm off.
Yeah.
So when she challenges me on something, it's like, so there's a deeper connection.
Yes. And then you don't have to circle the drain of fighting and conflict and, right, feeling unseen and misunderstood and all of that. That is what I'm hearing. If that's not happening, you're actually having intimacy more often and deeper.
Real intimacy.
Yeah.
Right. I would say even for most men, intimacy is not intimate at all. It's a physical act and an experience, but not really there with their partner
Yeah.
fully.
Yeah.
And that really is different. That's a really different place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I often have such a hard time using the words to describe what happens in real intimacy, right? It's not a very concrete thing, but
No.
sometimes the way I feel is, to know that someone has your back and to know that there's trust and respect and safety. And that on top of that, you get to really look at, what's going to delight you and what's going to delight me. And how do we want to build our days, our lives, our sex, our all of that, right? From this place of total, I don't know if I would say total freedom, but there's this incredible freedom and nuance and attunement. And, I talk about in my book, Honest Sex, I talk about going from a one-dimensional sex life to a four-dimensional sex life, which is what you talked about, all the integrated parts of us, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, the energetic, right. So then that gets to happen between two people and knowing each other's hearts and bodies and what lights us up. And, that doesn't happen for the most part in your 20s.
No, and it doesn't. I don't think it happens for many. Again, if you're not
Ever.
maturing, if you're not
Yeah.
stepping in, if you're not having those conversations, if you're not risking leaning in and asking about what
Yeah.
pleases me, what pleases you, what's beyond this, then you never get there.
Yeah.
And you just stand on the outside of your own life and wonder what it could be like. And your fantasies go, well, maybe this 30-year-old at work who is laughing at my jokes now and who gives me some attention that I'm not getting at home during this middle, like maybe I should jump out there. And what I always say is like, well, if you only intend for that relationship to last really a short time, then this younger person is also going to move into menopause, perimenopause. You do realize that, right?
Yes.
You do realize that you're just setting yourself up. You can't run from this
from it.
And you don't really want to, in my mind. I mean, you can't. There's lots of people who do.
Yeah.
And no judgment about that because, again, that whole question I asked you is like, how many women would do this by choice? Almost none would do it because it's a hard journey.
Yeah.
There aren't going to be many men who want to it's so much, it seems like it's more difficult to take responsibility and to step into the place of using this as a catalyst for upgrading and for getting into a different place. It seems like it's a lot of work and it's hard. And why should I do it since it's her that's changing? And the reality is it's about who you want to be with yourself.
Yeah.
How do you want to grow this interior being? Do you want to be, I'm going to stop here for a second because I sit in groups of men who are 20 to 25 years older than me.
Yeah.
I'm 59. They're 80, 85. I sit two different groups of men, about 15 men in each group. And I listen. I get to see my future sitting there before me. I hear what they are longing for and what they wish they had done and how they had shown up. Many times it's around relationship, not just with their partner, but with their children, with real deep, true relationship.
Yeah.
And if you don't mature yourself from the inside and be there, not only as that king, you can't move to a wise elder. So you move into your adult years, into those later years, and you don't have the virility, you don't have the physical capacity, you oftentimes aren't working, so you're not producing, which means who are you as a man?
Yeah.
And we're lost and angry and at a place where they don't know what happened to themselves.
Yeah.
So this is a pathway forward into that, in a different reality where you are grounded, really present, wise elder Well, I always say elder has nothing to do with age.
Yeah.
Almost nothing. You have to be a certain age to be an elder. But just because you hit a certain age doesn't mean you are one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. I mean, I think this is a path to having a still feeling like you have a purpose in life and to expressing your truth and your power, your true power, instead of feeling weak or feeling helpless. Um, yeah, if you're not willing to grow and if you're not willing to face some of these triggers and habits and shadows, then you get stuck in that princely stage. And then most people, if you end up later in life without having done the growing, it's painful, like you said, because the things that had given you meaning or a sense of power get stripped over time. And then what are you actually left with if you haven't found who you truly are?
Absolutely. And the thing about relationship is that it can be such a rich journey.
Yeah.
But what often happens if you don't do some of these upgrades is you stay in patterns, you keep your patterns, and each partner kind of pulls away further because you as a woman can't trust me to be there.
Yeah.
You can't trust me as an anchored, grounded person. You know I'm using these tools and they're not serving you or me.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to meet you. And if my only go-to is through the physical, through the active sex, if that is the only tool I've got really in my tool bag that I feel good about being a man, and that's also diminished through my own andropause phase, then we don't grow together. We just age.
Yeah. And we
And
usually
we have
go
these
apart.
and we have these empty relationships that are just roommates.
Yeah.
And many of you are probably in that already
Yeah.
in this place
Yeah.
where you're feeling like roommates and not deep connected partners.
Yeah. This is thank you so much for having this conversation. And there's a lot more we could keep talking about, but as we're
There is.
nearing the end, is there anything else you feel like if I don't say this, I'm gonna regret it?
I think there's a lot of that. I think this is not a one and done here with us, my friend. I think there's opportunity for a journey with that. I mean, again, we all have choice. There's no judgment about this. It's an invitation into your interior world. This is not a mental exercise about do you want to do this or not do this. Is this an upgrade that you should make and you tally it out on paper? It's an internal calling that you feel into.
Yeah.
If you feel that call, then my suggestion is move on that. Find somebody, some ways to help you, a pathway into that upgraded person, and have conversations with your partner, with your spouse around what's going on for you.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, I get it. It's hard
Yeah.
to be vulnerable in that space because you don't know how she's going to respond.
Yeah. And I want to just say, from the side of the woman, I'm not saying that the man should be the only one to take responsibility, right? I mean, I work very, very hard to have all of these emotions and to go through these dark places and to not blame or shame or attack my partner. And so that's where another place, to have a conversation in a couple where it's like, okay, how are we going to treat each other through this? What are the agreements that we want to make? How do we actually keep love on the table instead of, blowing things up? So this is where we get to also say, come find you. How do people actually find you if they need a guide to go through this process?
Yeah, thank you. Before I jump into that, I really want to speak to the fact of vulnerability as men. We've been told, where it's beat into us, sometimes literally, that to be vulnerable is to be weak, is to not be a man.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely not the truth. And it's the thing. One of the things that has taken us down, and the other thing that's taken us down, is this whole lone wolf mentality.
Yeah.
I'd say in my program and stuff that if there's anything that's brought men down, is this: I've got to do it by myself.
Yeah.
Because we can't. Our tribal nature, we were grouped together with other men. We are built physically, biologically, to be connected with other men.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Thank
That's
you.
what I would say. And so to reach me,
Yes. How
I'm
do we
guessing
find you?
I'm guessing you're going to put out some stuff at the end of this to about my contact information. But I do have programs, especially right now. I've got one that's around. It's called the King's Return, which is about how we, and you say why return. It's not maybe the most appropriate title for what's going on in our country at this time, but that's a whole nother story. But the King's Return is about we were born kings.
Yeah.
We are just asking, inviting this next phase as we go from a young boy to a prince. The next natural movement for us, without judgment, is to move into the king space.
Right. The conscious king, as you're, as you're saying
Yeah, the
that, what's
conscious king.
happening
It's not
politically.
well in the king and in really in the four houses, right? In that king, in the
Yeah.
king, magician, warrior, and lover, and all four of those houses bring forth that king aspect, bring forth that man, that fully embodied man.
Yeah.
That's a lifelong journey. That's not something that happens overnight. But I've got a course that will take us through some of the tools, and I'll work side by side with you in a group of men, and it's a powerful transformational journey
Mm.
to help launch that with you.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for having this conversation. And I too feel very called to support people, couples, men, women, anyone going through this menopausal, perimenopausal journey. And yeah, and I also trust them with you. So reach out to us and don't do this alone. This
I was
is,
just going to say that please don't do it. I mean,
yeah,
you will find, and this is what I'll stop with this for me anyway, unless you've got something else for me. But I had a conversation with a group of 80 or 75 to 85-year-old men, and I started off a conversation and I invited them into their hearts and to share relationships. And when they were able to share deeply about their pains, about what they have failed at in their lives, and particularly around relationship is where it came up around,
yeah,
it was cathartic for them to be in a group of other men and be witnessed. And I saw them lean in slowly at first. They played it safe and played. And then I shared, it was like I shared deep. And then they were able, it gave them permission to go in deep themselves.
yeah,
And it was cathartic for them. It
yeah,
was like, I'm a man being witnessed by other men and not being made less than. In fact, it's we each hold each other's burdens. We each go, oh, I'm not the only one.
yes,
And that is such power in that of going, okay, now that we've identified where my wounds are, let's not just stay there. What's the next step to move us from that and
yes,
through it?
yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much again. And may we have more of these conversations.
May we have more of these. Absolutely. I would love that.
Thank you. I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Practicing Love. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and gained insight into yourself and your current and past relationships and inspiration for what's possible. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe and write a quick review to help people find us. If you'd like more support in your love life, be sure to get your free copy of my best-selling book, Honest Sex, at shanajamescoaching.com/free. That's shanajamescoaching.com/free. And we'll see you next time.